Take two. Hey, so I've been asked a few times about doing like a reaction, not a reaction video, so much as work describing one of my drafts, but I don't do a lot of actual real startups because I try to limit my leagues these days because the grind grinds, and frankly, just the research involved I'm doing most of the time. I can't be in 20 leagues anymore. I'm in 5 now. But we recently added one. I had this idea, and everyone liked it until it turned out I had a different idea for what it could be between the DLF podcast groups. Because we've got all these great DLF podcasts, of which mine is one. Divers Crossroads. Plug, I guess. And I thought it would be fun to try and interconnect those podcasts through a league, because we're all arguing and talking about different ideas. And the idea really came to me because I was on a podcast with John Hogue, who's on the Superflex podcast. That's his podcast. And also DLF podcast. And we were arguing about a startup strategy difference or a different perspective. And I realized we had no common league to go to turn to, see what happened here when. And so we also got cut off because J. Mike Check on the open bar didn't like us disagreeing with each other so openly because he's a peacemaker. But anyway, that's what kicked it off. And so I suggested it, and the new boss of the DLF podcast, Dynasty Outhouse, was like, sure, I'll set up a league. And then everyone wanted to make it really intricate and add in all these different scoring settings. And I was like, whoa. I wanted something that like we could all talk about on our podcasts and it relate to regular leagues. And so they all hate me, but yeah, we went with that. Basically, it's the Trade Addicts. If you've been in a Trade Addicts league or know about them, they're pretty well-run leagues by Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse. That's just some shade there. And to my podcast daddy. So it's got tight end premium 1.75, which is a small adjustment, and we'll talk about that at some point. It's Superflex, and John Hogue was going to be in here, and that was interesting, or is interesting to me. And and pretty much everyone who's got a DLF podcast were in this league. It's like they wanted to just keep adding teams. I was like, if we add, like, there's a big difference in drafting in a 14 to a 12 team league, and a 12 team league to a 16 team league is basically a different world, because the supply and demand, as the demand gets higher, the supply gets more and more in demand, and therefore values change rather drastically. So we've got a 14 team league, which still isn't the 12 team league. I'm pretty sure it's 14, that I would really want to push for, but like I'd already won a couple of battles in a row there, and so it just felt right that I'd miss one. Either way, we finished that draft and the rookie draft, and I thought maybe I would try to go through the first few rounds at least, depending on how long it takes to get through them, to talk roughly through the old thought process of why I went the way it did, how well I think it went, that kind of thing. I'm actually looking for a roster count here because I can't actually remember what we ended up settling on. It's hosted on My Fantasy League, which means it'll take me about 4 years to find what I'm looking for. League, no. Franchise? Yes, rosters. Okay. So how many teams we got in this league? 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a riveting YouTube video, I know. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it's a 12-team league. Neat. I won that one too. I win everything. As it is, I made some mistakes in this draft for sure. One of them happens real early on, but I got reasons. But also, I failed to back up the risk I was taking, I think, which might be the weakness of the team. And also, I got to cook John Hogue a little bit, so that was fun. Because we drew random draft slots, and we ended up back-to-back, which meant some interesting sniping should take hold. So let's go take a look. That's it. That's a team. You see, I went more quarterback heavy. My typical, especially in Superflex or 2QB, same thing, leagues. My idea is I want to pay up for the tippy top of the class, But I typically favor running back because there's fewer of them, and I can stream or multiple QB my way into production. Just standard, I think, at this point in Superflex reasoning. But to counteract the fact that there is a supply and demand problem in Superflex, obviously with quarterback, there are only 32, everyone wants two. You can't trade a quarterback without getting a quarterback, and it creates a problem. Now, John Hogue's alternative is to draft 5 QBs in a row, basically, or to aim to get 5 starting QBs on your roster. And I think he overpays too drastically for that. But I'm not having that debate right now because he's not here and he can't tell me how stupid I am for thinking that. So, I'm just explaining my basic idea, whereas I typically don't go for the top tier quarterbacks, but I do overpay for my second tier. I will get my first quarterback at a fair value. Like on this roster, it's Aaron Rodgers, right? And so I drafted him fairly high, and I'm okay doing that, just typically not in the first round, just where they are drafted by ADP. I'll get one of those good top 12 starting quarterbacks, in my opinion. But then for those QB 2s and 3s, I will typically go 2, 3, or even more rounds higher above ADP because I want to lock in those other quarterbacks, and I'd rather bleed value further down the draft than higher up the draft. So that's typically my quarterback strategy, and it all goes to poo the minute you get into an actual draft. But my typical idea with quarterback is draft 1 reasonably high in ADP, but not in the first round, and then I want to overpay for those quarterbacks who might be slightly undervalued for age or Carson Wentz-esque reasons, but I'm going to overpay for those quarterbacks 2 and 3 instead of overpaying for quarterbacks 2 and 3 higher up in the draft. That's my basic idea. After that, Superflex is the exact same as every other league. Running backs are necessary to win, wide receivers get longer value, so on and so forth. So what's the problem with this team before we look at the draft and how it actually happened? My overview is I took a big gamble, and I knew it was a big gamble at the time, and I think I did it at a reasonable place, but I took a big gamble on James Robertson. You see, he's my running back 2 here, and is now a running back 3 on any fantasy team, because despite deeply loving James Robinson and undrafted free agents, Travis Etienne is real, and he's running back 1 now. No matter how weird the team makes it sound, he's going to play wide receiver or whatever. He's running back 1 on a bad team. But still, James Robinson made it work. Etienne probably will as well. And James Robinson is now the most expensive handcuff we could have asked for. But I knew that was a risk, which is why I didn't draft him where I would draft other running backs that young with that amount of production. But the problem with that is because I went in on that high upside gamble, and you're always kind of looking for upside in the first few rounds, basically. More upside than floor, although you don't want to get too risky because then your team's dead after year 1. And again, we'll look at the draft in a second. I didn't back that up with any extra value because typically, and the rookie picks were included in the draft. You could draft rookie picks. The 101, the 102 was in there as an option. I just let other people take those, and I take players or young players I know more about than rookies, even when one of them is Jamar Chase and I desperately want them on my team. So what I should have done after taking Robinson is really focus either on those rookie picks a little bit more than I do by default, or really young wide receivers with proven production, but that is also counter to what I typically look for. For example, my wide receiver 1 on this team is Michael Thomas, who I got at really good value, and we'll see that in a second, which is great. And I love Juju Smith-Schuster, who I also think I got an amazing value on, but what I should have on that team right there, because of the James Robinson bet, because I've got so much invested in running back, and that was a risky pick even before the draft happened, is I should have some DJ Moore, some Calvin Ridley, some Chris Godwins, these age 24 to 26 wide receivers that I don't need, and even though I like those players, because typically, as you can see, I'm taking shots on players I think are lower valued, that I can stream, that can be wide receivers 3s, and I've more heavily focused that and grabbing extra running back depth. But because I took that James Robinson shot, I really should have reached more on some of those Cortland Suttons, for example, than I did. Because now with James Robinson gone, my team is already on the back foot before the league starts, and I don't really have any extra value to try and revamp it. It's all good value, but I don't have anything to spend, as it were. It's all kind of, I'm in the green, but I'm not rich. And that's a problem because I've immediately lost my running back 2, who I paid a significant price for. And so I think that's if there is a big mistake on the way I drafted this team, I think that's it. Not drafting James Robinson, but then not adjusting my strategy through the later rounds to really try and make sure that if that fell through, I would have something to try and make it up for. I've already tried to make some moves after losing James Robinson to the draft, such as trading Michael Thomas back into the running back position, because that's the easiest way to do it, crossing over positions, but so far no luck, and I think Michael Thomas is undervalued right now, which is a double whammy on losing value so early. Like, my best players are slightly undervalued based on my valuation of them, and so it's really hard to make up that distance after taking such a big swing, or big-ish swing, with James Robinson, or inserting so much draft capital in that running back 2 slot, which isn't typically my formula, but I was also trying to adjust to the players I know are good, because they're all DLF podcasters, in this draft, and focusing on year one. I really want to win this year, so I thought a good running back 1-2 punch of Christian McCaffrey and James Robinson without ETN was a pretty solid start for that kind of roster, and I've already lost my front foot, my leading leg of having a really big punch year one with the running back position. Like, it's been cut in half, and I didn't do enough to mount up, unless this really upside shot I took on Jalen Reagor, which I shouldn't have taken, but I've explained this in other places. There are just some players I'm going to take the low odds bets on, and Jalen Reagor's one. He's now overvalued probably based on what happened year one, but I still really love his college profile, and that's what it is. So yeah. I at least should have, especially with that tight end premium, I should have invested more in the tight end position, because tight ends, again, even on DLF podcast leagues, some people are going to be willing to pay for tight end more than they are in regular leagues, and I just defaulted to what I typically think, and I think that's a mistake. But let's take a look at the draft, shall we? Now, the thing about my fantasy league is it's great, and it's awesome, and, sponsor me, I guess, but look at all these options, and also when you get to where you're actually trying to get to, where is it? Damn it! Reports, league. No, where's draft results? Here's the thing: I don't even want to use it. I just want to show you why I'm not using it. No, it's definitely reports. It's got to be league. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. Draft results. It looks like this, and we can talk through it from this perspective, but it's really hard to read, okay? And so what I'm going to show you is how I actually track my drafts as they go by. It's obviously it's a spreadsheet, obviously. And it's not fancy. It's not like something I'm going to upload that. It's just me looking up information in the sheets I've already got for you. I just built this thing to go look it up, so that as I enter player names, it pulls up some relevant information, like where they are being picked according to ADP, where they're being picked according to this draft, and what the differential is. And then it goes and looks at ADP to see who's the next player to go at each position if I manually type it in, because it's my sheet, so I don't have to make it too fancy. It shows me, who's the next player to be picked per ADP, and who's the next player to be picked based on whatever position I choose up here. So it's fairly manual, but I enjoy it, and it helps me keep track. And also on the player selection tab, it will highlight them in yellow once they've been picked, so if there are any falling players, it's a nice visual reference for me. I like it. But yeah, it's not probably something anyone else is interested in, but there it is. So what I thought I'd do is use this, because I think this is a little easier to read. You can see round 1, 2, round 2. You can't see, the team names, but that's why I also already haven't been mentioning them. All you really need to know is that John Hogue is right after me, and that's a rookie draft. This is a startup draft, so here I am, and John Hogue is, at pick 5, so he right before and right after me. And it's not that John Hogue is my arch nemesis or anything, it's just that I made some moves very early on, which I think we're going to get to cover even in this start video of looking over this startup, that were deliberately because I'm adjusting to who I know is in the league, which I think is a thing you can do, especially when you're playing with people you know a little bit. Also, I got to snake one of John's picks pretty early, and I was happy with that. So, to start off the draft, the first team that is not me, I'm in green over here. Actually, if I can move me, you can see I highlight my own picks in green. Goes Patrick Mahomes. Real solid pick based on Superflex ADP. That's exactly where he should go. That's all. I'm moving this out the way. You don't need to know where you can find me, right? Cool. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes. And that's probably where I'm at in Superflex. The one quarterback I will draft in the first round is Patrick Mahomes. And the minute I see him go, I'm like, okay, so I'm defaulting to running back unless something drastic is happening. Now, I do know John Hogue is in this league, and his base strategy is draft 5 quarterbacks as soon as possible. So there is a potential that I am going to, run out of quarterbacks real quick. Because if there's anyone like John, and there definitely could be in a league full of sharp people that are going to make you pay for quarterback in trade by focusing on quarterback in the draft, then I'm going to have to keep an eye out. But the minute Patrick Mahomes goes off the board, I'm like, okay, so especially with an early pick here, with the 4th pick, I'm already thinking running back. There is tight end premium, but I typically, I'm not going to go there unless I think there's a massive adjustment I need to make because of whoever's in my league, and I can't. I don't think so. So the next pick is Josh Allen. So we seem to be going quarterback heavy. So even by pick 2, this is kind of emphasizing I might actually want to go quarterback with pick 4. But the next guy to go is Dak Prescott. And that's a guy I would probably be targeting in the second round. He shouldn't, and he doesn't always. And based on ADP, this was a slight overreach in that they've selected him 2 picks above average positional rank value, and actually 1 quarterback. So whoever's gone and got him has done a good job, because I was thinking of taking him even if I was going to go quarterback. By the time Dak Prescott's off the board, I know Kyler Murray's the next guy up, and I really like Kyler Murray, and I really like Kyler Murray for 2021. But Dak Prescott with 2 top 5 seasons and Patrick Mahomes with all the top 5 seasons, he is not. And so I default back to, okay, I'm going to push running back here and hope the quarterback run slides off. And so by the time it gets back round to me, I can draft my quarterback 1 and actually have, a great running back 1. Because if I do it the opposite way around, my running back 1 isn't going to be a top 5 running back, or isn't as likely going to be a top 5 running back. And so I switch it up and I end up going Christian McCaffrey, I think, right? We just saw the team, so I should know. Yeah, I ended up going Christian McCaffrey. And notice, despite the fact I made that sound fancy, like that's at 0 value. That's where Christian McCaffrey goes. So I'm essentially just defaulting to ADP average, which is sad. I like to think of myself as a contrarian, but apparently not this time, baby. Although, given that there are more quarterbacks going than you would typically expect, because Dak Prescott was a little overdrafted, I haven't adjusted, and that would have been a fine move. If you wanted to go for Kyler Murray right there, would have been fine. I happen to know or suspect that John is definitely going to go quarterback. Kyler Murray's the next guy, and he's actually got him at a slight discount because Dak Prescott's got a little earlier. Who was that team 2? Who was that tall man? Adam TZ on Twitter. Sticky Z. Yeah. He's got a pretty good podcast you should check out as well. Not going to plug it right now because he stole my Dak Prescott, but there you go. He's gone and got Dak Prescott, which has given John value on Kyler Murray, and I just defaulted to ADP because it's not Patrick Mahomes and my favorite value quarterback. Dak Prescott has been drafted early. I'm just going to see what happens. So what happens next? Someone takes Lamar Jackson, which is another guy who would be very fair consideration. Actually slightly overdrafted, which is just because ADP is a little stupid at this point in time. Someone reaches highly on Joe Burrow at pick 7. So at this point, with Christian McCaffrey in the bank, I'm starting to think that maybe the quarterback run isn't going to end, especially when Trevor Lawrence goes as quarterback. What is that? Quarterback 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is during the month. This was like last month when quarterbacks across the board, all ADP I could find, like we were pushing as many as possible into those top 12, top 24 picks. So I already knew that going in, especially in this league where people know there's an advantage, several different advantages in Dynasty to leaning more heavily on quarterback than default average theory. I kind of expected it was going to come, but that's also given the nature of why I wanted this league, why I wanted to go running back. I wanted to see how that played out with good players focusing quarterback more heavily if I just go and get my running back 1. So I guess we'll see. But you saw how the team shook out. And I don't think Christian McCaffrey is a weakness of it, but that does put me specifically focused on 2021, and now I'm struggling in 2021 early because I fouled up that value issue I talked about. Anyway, Justin Herbert goes. He's getting him at value because someone's reached on Jackson technically, and Joe Burrow definitely. Someone loves Joe Burrow a lot, and I think that's fair, especially in terms of value. But in terms of performance, I don't think you're looking at a Patrick Mahomes or even Dak Prescott level history. It's just a matter of he's going to be a good quarterback for a significant period of time, probably. Sorry, I'm uploading a YouTube video here. Where's the thing? Who's 7? Oh, Jordan Rosler. Okay, he's a big Joe Burrow fan. Nice. Following on, we get Travis Kelce going. Someone's over, for my mind, overvaluing that tight end premium, especially in a year where Travis Kelce and Kyle Pitts are kind of equal value in trade right now, which is crazy. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce, but age and youth and dynasty value do fun things. But yeah, that's not uncommon. He has reached for 27 picks earlier than he should and one positional rank above. I think George Kittle is getting a slight bump in Superflex ADP right now because of his age, frankly. AJ Brown goes, which is a reach according to ADP, but is not a reach. You're going to have to pay up for AJ Brown this year, and yeah, that's fine. It is nice to see this quarterback run stop from my perspective. Someone gets Jonathan Taylor at the end of the first round, which is great value, considering now my Christian McCaffrey is definitely looking like a reach when you've got the running back 2 going 6 spots later after a whole bunch of quarterbacks are already off the board. So, yeah. That little let's see how it rolls if I go to average, it hasn't worked out so far. Saquon Barkley goes next. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, but still, I got Christian McCaffrey. I'm not sweating too hard, especially since the quarterback run has stopped. And this is me trying to relive a draft I did a few weeks ago, by the way. And it's a slow draft, so bear with me. Justin Jefferson goes. We're staying away from quarterbacks. Honestly, that's not a reach. ADP is just a little low on some of these wide receivers because we're trying to push quarterbacks and running backs so high up. Someone takes Dalvin Cook, which is a very good 2020 bet, and especially in the second round, and they're pairing him with Travis Kelce here. So very much going for this year's win. I guess I'm in competition with Christian McCaffrey on the roster. George Kittle goes, a slight overreach in ADP, but he's getting positional rank value because someone took Travis Kelce above him. Justin Fields goes because we're switching right back to quarterback just before it becomes my pick. Alvin Kamara, fine. Russell Wilson, again, that's kind of why I'm not worried. You're getting really good quarterbacks, but getting discounted slightly at the end of round 2 when you have an early first-round pick because of age concerns and because of later part of the season concerns. But, that's fine by me. And outside of Patrick Mahomes, honestly not sweating it too hard, especially since the quarterback run did stop. Even in this league where people are focusing it pretty hard, and it stops pretty drastically. Cam Akers goes, running back bets. I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey. I'm good with that. And then this is John Hogue, and I take Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm thinking quarterback, especially after going running back and watching so many quarterbacks go. But then Russell Wilson reminds me there's still quarterbacks I like. Like Deshaun Watson is a little iffy right now, but based on ADP at the time, he was the next pick. But I went ahead and took Aaron Rodgers because I'm right next to John Hogue. And John Hogue, I think here, knows I am not draft 5 quarterbacks. And so I just went ahead and I think he's playing I can get running back and then go back to my quarterback stance. So, and there was a trade after this. I do think I shocked him with it. At least he cursed me out in the league chat. And I think, John traded his next few picks because he needed to scramble because his plan had kind of been screwed over because I'd taken Aaron Rodgers. So I took a great deal of pleasure, so it's worth it on that note. But that's why I took Aaron Rodgers. One, so many quarterbacks have gone already. I think he has as much upside in 2021, and I already have an older running back that I think is a top 5 running back. So I'm focused on 2021, and it also tilts the guy who's right next to me. And if I don't take him, John Hogue is taking Aaron Rodgers as soon as possible from this point on. He's just trying to sneak a running back under the wire because I've already gone running back and he's seen some of the other good running backs he goes. I imagine, I can't speak for him, before it got back to him. So he's trying to sneak a running back in before he goes Aaron Rodgers and continues with his QB strategy. And I've kind of screwed that up a little bit, I hope. DK Metcalf goes. it's fine, Wide receivers still are of value, still getting top 5 receivers around here. I'm okay still thinking running back or quarterback in a super flex at this point, although it is always sad to see the wide receivers go. Someone reaches wildly in Zach Wilson. They love him, but they're going for a young team, apparently, because their next pick is Najee Harris. Rookies and young players. Neat. Notice this isn't tracking trades. I don't think any of those are results of trades. No one's stacking up youth with proven production just yet. It's more just... Yeah, John Haig traded the next one, but there's no trades up until this point. All right, we're good. So yeah, that team, back-to-back picks, they're just rolling out young players who are going to have value, and they think of the top of the class. Zach Wilson, I'm not so sure on, but I really can't complain about Najee Harris. Devontae Adams goes, it's just a great value. We're getting these older wide receivers who are very, very good late because there's such young talents to search for, especially with early round picks. They've already proven themselves. Stephon Diggs going this late, same kind of story, and I end up getting Michael Thomas. So from my perspective, and I actually think I have a thing over here that can... Yeah, this is my ADP team. No, I've actually built another tab in here to show me my actual team, but apparently it didn't save. Anyway, so this is what my team should be based on ADP. I think that's a neat thing to look at. And then I've created one that shows the team that I actually draft, but apparently that's disappeared. But according to my player tab, at this point in the draft, this is what I'm aware of, because I haven't updated ADP since I had that draft. Deshaun Watson is falling, but I know why he's falling. But because John Bosch is constantly in the back of my head, I know that that is a good pick. And so I am kind of trying to keep it in mind, but I don't like drafting players. That's not fun for me with that kind of stuff in the background. So I'm mostly letting it slide. But I also know Swift, Jalen Hurts is still around, who's not a quarterback I target. And I've already taken Aaron Rodgers, who I think is my quarterback 1. And so now I'm probably defaulting to wide receivers and other positions. And I'm going to come back and overpay for my QB, my tier 2 and 3. I'm going to get 2 quarterbacks at least from tier 2 by overpaying for at least one of them. Again, just my general theory. I know Tyreek Hill in the wide receiver bucket is falling, Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, and Antonio Gibson. Someone's reached slightly on Stephon Diggs, Zach Wilson, as we mentioned, Travis Kelce, and Najee Harris, because they're building a young team. But Michael Thomas, the guy I took, is somewhere. I don't think he was falling particularly. Yeah, I've kind of reached on him, but I know I'm not getting him on the comeback, if you know what I mean. I'm taking him at pick, what is this overall? Pick 28. And he normally is getting selected on average around pick 50. So I'm taking him nearly twice what his ADP is, or half what his ADP is. But in this league, I know people are going to be aware that Michael Thomas is falling a little bit. You've also got DeAndre Hopkins, but Michael Thomas edges him out in terms of youth a little bit for me, but he would have been a fine pick there as well. But again, if I'd known I was going to take that James Robinson shot, I've also got Calvin Ridley sitting right here, and I've got DJ Moore. Wide receivers I don't like as much, but they are young and they are already proven very good, and that would have made me a little bit safer and made my team look a bit better now, even if the worst happened. But at this point, I don't think I'm taking James Robinson necessarily, so I haven't seen that coming. That's my mistake. Baker Mayfield is a pick coming up, and he's actually a player I have in mind. In Superflex right now, I think he's a little undervalued because he's a lot younger than quarterbacks with this much history behind them typically have, and he's been okay. And I don't mind that in Superflex. So he's a guy I've got in mind in that tier 2 that I will overpay for, but it's too soon for me to take my quarterback 2, given my general idea of what I'm trying to do here. So yeah, I've got Michael Thomas, and that means I've got Michael Thomas, Aaron Rodgers, and Christian McCaffrey, and I'm well on my way to rolling out a great team for next season. Which again means I probably should have been like, I better roll some early value in here as well, which would have protected me from the James Robinson thing that happened as well. Anyway, what happens next? Deshaun Watson goes off the board. because someone takes that gamble, they're listening to John Bosch, as I should probably do more often, then DeAndre Swift. And you can see ADP is keeping fair track. This is what I mean. If you follow through along by ADP, you get a pretty good type of idea of the players someone else is going to take and the ones that are falling, and you can pick and choose the ones that you actually like the most. ADP is, even with the six mock example in DLF ADP, it gives you a pretty decent idea as you run through your own drafts. And that's kind of why I built this thing. Ryan Tannehill goes, which to me is an overreach. He's that tier 2 quarterback, the top 12 upside. I'm not paying all the way up for him, but I certainly don't mind. I get, especially with so many quarterbacks off the board already. Let's see, where's the draft trends? So far, we've drafted like 46% of all picks up until this third round have been at quarterback. Like it is the leading position at this point. And that's strongly above ADP, the ADP trend as well. As you can see over here, we're doing twice the average of quarterback selections, and that's just the way this league is going. Which again, going running back means I have to pay attention to that moving forward, which is why I ended up so many quarterbacks, but my mind was so focused on that, I forgot to think about the value and what year one would look like if that big gamble I took. Because so far, none of these players are gambles. Yeah, they're older, but no one thinks they're not going to be good in 2021. James Robinson had that risk, and my mind's so on I'm bleeding quarterback, I didn't think about bleeding value. That's one way to post hoc hindsight work the way this draft went. Anyway, Antonio Gibson goes, which to me is just letting players fall. But it's okay. It's a running back. I get it. And he could definitely do something in 2021. I don't think that team's built for it, but, you know, I'll argue with that podcast host, not you guys, obviously. Trey Lance. Remember, the draft hasn't happened at this point. We're kind of mad for quarterbacks in Superflex, but again, it's not working out so good for me trying to take advantage of that edge. It worked out all right, but still. Ezekiel Elliott goes. That team's definitely looking to play this year, and he's someone to keep an eye on. Chris Godwin goes, which is just such a good value, especially in this draft where good value picks are getting sniped off and quarterbacks are getting so amped up. I think that's really good value for that team. And then we get to Tyreek Hill finally going off the board. He's dropped a little bit. Kansas City wide receiver 1 not getting the love. Again, it's kind of some of that stickiness I don't want to roll around in with Deshaun Jackson as well, though. Jalen Hurts is just quarterback, right? Also, he runs a little bit and was good in a small sample size. Great. But you notice all these guys are falling to value because these guys who are usually values in a draft I would typically think they're going to fall to me a little bit. The other people in this league are the ones who also talk on podcasts and I argue with all the time. We all have our eye on everyone else's picks. We know who we like, and so some of these guys are usually values are actually getting slightly overdrafted to make sure they get them. I think that's what I'm seeing here anyway. CeeDee Lamb is just such an amazing value. To fall, that's great. Like I really like CeeDee Lamb for this year. I'm not going to draft him above AJ Brown or even Diggs or Adams as well. That's why he's falling, because we all feel the same way. I think we all love CeeDee Lamb, but trying to win versus proven production versus Dallas Cowboys, so on and so forth. But I kind of love this pick. Who was this? Pick 38. Now that was keeping your eye on falling players right there, in my opinion. Jersh Werb. I actually don't know who that is in real life. We can find out. I just gotta know at this point. Oh, it's Jerry Schwab. Okay, yeah, that makes sense given the acronym. The Stories Pods or Dynasty Self-Help. Yeah, I've been on their podcast. He's a smart guy. I think you got a really good value there on CeeDee Lamb. Well, not so much. Well, it is a value according to ADP, but I mean, it's just a great feeling to get someone that young who's already had a good rookie season that could really blow up next year in the 4th round against podcast hosts that you can just constantly mock on your own. Like, I think I'll enjoy that one. ADP says 2 is the next pick, by the way, and he's someone I have my eye on because I think he's falling in ADP even in this league. And so for this pick, that's kind of where I'm thinking, where I've got a great wide receiver, a great running back, and I've got a great quarterback, but I'm losing a little on youth, I'm losing a little on value, even before I take James Robinson. I'm hoping Tua's the next quarterback coming off the board according to ADP, and Tua's someone I want and think's a little undervalued right now. I really think he might fall to me. I remember expecting that to be something I could do, and in the end I couldn't, because what happens is Derrick Henry goes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another guy I thought would fall for me, and again, ADP says this team reached 11 spots on him. I thought he'd be available, not in my next pick, but the pick after, or maybe even the pick after that, if he was falling because people are low on him. No one in DLF podcast land is apparently too low on him. 4th round running back. Okay, he's small and was only a top 24 running back his first year, but he plays for the best team in the league with the most scoring opportunities, and he was not bad as a rookie. It's just crazy to me if someone wouldn't. Yeah, he's not James Robinson, okay, but we saw what happened to him. Anyway, moving on. Darren Waller, that tight end premium, just helping players fall. Personally, that's what I think whenever a tight end goes in Superflex premium. But, again, you just saw the state of my team, so maybe I'm not, shouldn't feel so hard my feelings. J.K. Dobbins goes, these are all, actually Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the two that I always hope kind of might fall a little later than this, and they didn't clearly. J.K. Dobbins, I fully respect taking that second year running back, had a good running back season. He's just not my favorite, but my favorites have already gone from that running back class, to be fair. So it's a really solid pick. And again, ADP says he actually got a really good value because people are taking shots on everyone else's favorite players, or the players that we all think of as our favorites at least. Well, Sanders goes, Nick Chubb goes. I did take Tua. I got him. Did I miss that when we looked over the team? I must have. I got Tua, so I do have some useful value. I just thought I had 3 older quarterbacks. No, I'm happier with my team than I thought I was. Anyway, so I get Tua. That was my plan, and I executed it. Yay! Fortunately, I bled that value out because, like I just said, I'm probably going to have to spend some of that to make up for the upside pick I didn't back up later in rounds. But anyway, that means Baker Mayfield is the next quarterback, and as I already mentioned, he's someone that I like, and so I'm thinking a double-tapping quarterback here, and especially since I have my running back one, I have my wide receiver one, it's a super flex league, and these guys have already heavily drafted quarterback, and again, flicking over to my tabs, I know that in this draft, we're still like tripling the rate of QB picks. This is what we're picking them at. 40% of picks so far have been quarterbacks. On average, it's 17% of picks at this point in the draft. So, yeah, I know it's a thing. Where am I? And remember, this is a thing I made for myself. I'm not guaranteeing you that's the way it breaks down, because I'm allowed to make mistakes in sheets I just make for myself. But that's what I think it's true. Calvin Ridley goes, you see, if you know you're going to take a James Robinson-esque pick, just shouldn't let things like that slide past you. But I got a second-year quarterback who I think is actually pretty good, that people are underrating because we haven't seen enough of him yet. Because we literally haven't seen enough of him yet. This isn't a, let's wait, Sam Darnold still might have it take. We literally haven't seen Tua play a season, and he was the guy everyone was convinced was the Trevor Lawrence of his class in his draft season. So, where did that hype go? I don't know, but I'm still in, even though I don't evaluate quarterback. Ridley goes, Travis Etienne. Remember, this is before the draft. It's not like we do pretty well at knowing who's good. Poor James Robinson. Baker Mayfield goes before it comes back to my pick again, so I'm like, well, shit, what do I do now? That was my backup. That way I will have overpaid for that third quarterback, and I'm free to speculate outside of that to fill out the rest of my roster, to grab good value, to grab long-term value for Dynasty. And instead, Baker Mayfield goes. So, entering the 5th round, Carson Wentz goes. So we're hitting a QB run again. Aaron Jones goes, which is, that's actually probably my favorite pick in the draft, especially when your mind is on winning next season, as well as grabbing value and having your favorite players. Like Aaron Jones is one of those guys who could really win you a league in 2021 because he's falling in value, because he's old, because the Packers have moved on. It is going to get worse if, Aaron Rodgers doesn't stay there, but we don't know any of that yet. Draft isn't even here when we're drafting this podcast, so I kind of, that was maybe not my favorite pick. take that back, but it's definitely one of my favorite picks in this draft, and it is not mine, you'll notice. I think that was really good value, and he really wasn't on my mind at this point. There was no point I was taking Aaron Jones over Tua Tagovailoa. I said it right. So I was not getting him because the guy at Team 2 here has seen me and everyone else coming. And the 5th round, that's a really good pick for Aaron Jones, I think. And DeAndre Hopkins goes, which is immense value, actually. If I'm taking Michael Thomas in the 3rd round, that's basically the same bet, but he's taking him in the 5th. So I've not overpaid for Thomas. I actually think I got good value, even though he's above. I actually drafted him above ADP, didn't I? Yeah, I drafted him 22 picks above ADP. I just knew he wasn't coming back to me where Tua is right now, but apparently he might have, because DeAndre Hopkins came back to that pick. So maybe I overdrafted Thomas a little bit, and that's a slight mistake I made. But that's where Thomas should be going, man. But it isn't, so it's a mistake. Moving on. So what do I do next? I can't even remember. That's where I meant with James Robinson bet. You know, I've locked in my quarterback 2. Screw the quarterback 3, I guess, because John Hogue has not been making a lot of noise about drafting his 5 quarterbacks, and so that's kind of feeling a little safer there. I've got 2. He can't completely screw me, and neither can anyone else in the draft. I have 2 starting quarterbacks, at least in my mind, no matter what you think of Tua. I think I have 2 starting quarterbacks this year, and one of them's young and could have serious upside, in my opinion. So I'm feeling pretty comfy, and so I take a shot at that. Like, if I can have 2 running back 1s to go into 2021 with, to me that's a huge upside bet. I just saw Aaron Jones go. I'll take the other kind of bet. You know, he's shorter term because he's an undrafted free agent, but he's just been just as dominant in the one season we've seen, and I honestly I do think that's a good pick, in the same way Aaron Jones is a good pick here. But Michael Thomas ends up to have been, I spent a little bit too much on that older good wide receiver. And I don't do enough, as we saw when we looked over my overall roster, to make up for the potential downside in taking James Robinson here. And so it's not like the crucial flaw. I don't think it's a flawed draft. Well, obviously every draft is a little flawed. You can always do slightly better if you know everything that's going to happen, which I didn't, and you don't when you're going through. But looking back, this is where I might have noticed some things that could have helped me on later on, so that when James Robinson eventually gets destroyed by Travis Etienne before they've even played the season, I had a little bit more to try and back up, because I'm heavily geared towards 2021 at this point with the way I've built my team. I do have, and I just learned I have extra value than I thought I had with Tua, but that also means Tua has to do something this year. So I'm really invested in 2021, and I haven't done enough to maybe build out my future years, especially since I'm not taking picks. In this whole draft, I think I'm the one who takes the fewest rookie picks, and I'm the one who takes the latest. Like, I'm probably one of the last ones to take a rookie pick. My first rookie pick is in, like, the end of the 2nd round. Like, the first 20-odd rookie picks are drafted before I even consider one. So, given that, I really should have refocused on getting... Calvin Ridley's already gone. Godwin's already gone. Cortland Sutton is not, though. Does Cortland Sutton go before my next pick, though? Let's find out. Terry McLaurin goes. He would have been another good option, so I couldn't get him. Jamar Chase is there because I couldn't just write Rookie 101, so I filled out names that I thought would be the draft order. So you see, the rookie picks were just going earlier and earlier. DJ Moore goes, so that wasn't an option to backfill that value. Mark Andrews is a really interesting pick here in the 5th round. That's both high and low when you think about it hard enough. Allen Robinson goes, who, despite the fact loving Allen Robinson, this is why I'm not high on him right now, because I love Allen Robinson, but he's in a range of the draft, and I'm not high on him for this draft, because I'm now thinking young and good, maybe not as high a possible upside as Allen Robinson in some cases. Cortland Sutton probably can't have the season Allen Robinson could have, but he's going to be playing longer. So, yeah, that's where I'm going with my wide receiver value right now. And T. Higgins goes. He would have been another good bet for it, but he goes before he gets back to me. Amari Cooper is more in that Allen Robinson type vein. Love both players. I want them, but for this draft, they wouldn't have been on my mind. And I can't remember thinking of them. Same with Michael Thomas. He's a little undervalued coming here. For the first time in his career, he's a little undervalued. Worth noting. Brandon Ayuk is not the young wide receiver bet I make, but he's fair, and maybe would have put me back on that train of thought. But we do get T. Higgins and what I consider to be Jamar Chase, rookie 101, disappearing. Or, no, that must have been the rookie 103 or so. Oh, that's right. That's why Trey Lance is drafted early, because I'm inserting rookie names. Backfill. All right. So by the time it gets to my pick, I don't see any of those young wide receivers, or at least I'm not, or maybe I'm not looking for them, because that's what, looking back, I wish I had done. Because normally I feel I'm overvaluing wide receivers. I never have a problem at wide receiver. I have too many good wide receivers, if anything. And so I'm trying to play a little bit smarter in this draft. And so I take Dallas Goedert, who I think is a little underrated, considering all the hype around tight end this year. Like everyone was high on Dallas Goedert and I wasn't. And then he did it and everyone went lower than me on Dallas Goedert. And I don't get what happened there. But he's there. There's a tight end premium. Tight ends are getting overdrafted in this draft as well. So I take a swing on Dallas Goedert. But in and of itself, I don't think it's a bad pick, but given the way my team's going, and that I've taken this James Robinson bet, and probably ended up paying a little too much for Michael Thomas since DeAndre Hopkins was available later, like between my two picks, so I could have had DeAndre Hopkins and taken someone else in the Michael Thomas place, that means this is probably a bad pick. Not the pick itself, just in relation to how my team's been building so far. I don't mind having Dallas Goedert still, and he might be tradable in a tight end premium league. He's young. He's on Philadelphia Eagles, which used to be a good thing. So he might be a path towards me reacquiring some of that stuff that I've lost, or at least building my team back up for 2021. Now it's taken a step back before we even play a game. But he's going to have to play that role, and it would have been a lot easier if I'd gone wide receiver. So who was available? Good question. Josh Jacobs, that's a running back bet. This is a perfectly fine pick here. He's falling in ADP in this particular draft. I could have taken a rookie pick. That would have been a very viable option right now, but I just, again, my defaults screwed me here a little bit. I don't want to overvalue rookies. I don't want to overvalue wide receivers. When given the fact I'd taken that James Robinson and Michael Thomas shot, it probably would have been a good idea. But again, more rookie picks. There's actually no great wide receiver around here falling at value that is young. I mean, Kenny Galladay's good. DeAndre Johnson is good, but he's actually not that young considering how long he's played in the league, and he's kind of got lower ceiling, but Cortland Sutton, I could have known and would have known to overvalue at 25 years old, going into his third season after missing his second season on the Broncos, with hopefully an improved offense next year after the debacle that was last year. Cortland Sutton probably would have been a better pick here than Dallas Goedert for me. I would have had to overdraft him slightly, but I've already overdrafted Michael Thomas, and again, that feeds into why I wasn't looking for that pick here. But I probably really should have. And so I think, James Robinson is a mistake, but he's not the mistake. And again, I don't think this is a bad team. This isn't a team that's guaranteed to lose or won't make the playoffs. I still think I'm in really strong contention, but I'm already weaker than I was, and I could have done more to shore myself up against that risk because I knew it when I took James Robinson. So it centers around James Robinson, but I could have done stuff to make up for it even before the worst happened and still been, James Robinson's a really expensive handcuff, but you need running back handcuffs. Why not? And felt fine with it. But because I didn't focus these rookie picks or go and grab Cortland Sutton maybe, or I think I end up with Juju. Yeah, I end up with Juju. So he would have been another way of doing it. And then I could have double tapped younger wide receiver who are going to continue to have value and trade value to make up for something like you get cooked by the draft. So I actually think this is a fairly decent stopping point. Like, we're 50 minutes in. Obviously, I'm not going to run through all 20 whatever rounds we've got in a YouTube video, at least not right now. I'm already getting a headache. But this is the final part of that mistake. After that, the draft goes on. Like, I can't say any drastic mistakes. I do overreach on Jalen Reagor, which I want to talk about at some point. But if I double tapped, like, Dallas Goedert doesn't have guaranteed trade value right now. Cortland Sutton does, Juju Smith-Schuster does, but selling one when you only have one means I just lose out a wide receiver at this point. So, yeah, I think that's the final part of that almost 3-tier mistake. It was okay to take that shot on running back early. I mean, that's a thing we do, and I love undrafted free agents. That's fine, but I didn't do enough to adjust the rest of my draft based on making that bet. And if I'm going to say that this team I've created right here, he says as if he has the skills to pull that up on command, then I probably should have adjusted that way. If that makes sense. But it's also hindsight. You don't know when you're going through a draft. And again, I'm really happy with this team. I think it's a solid team. I stand by it. I still think I'm going to beat all those guys. Obviously. Easy. But why can't I see Goddard on here? That's why it looks so weak. Did I trade Goddard? I didn't trade Goddard. That's not my pick. Goddard isn't on my team. What's going on here, guys? All right. We're investigating here. It's still a good stopping point because whatever I did there was the same mistake. But I have it tracked as Goddard. But let's go find out. Why does this always happen to me? Like, this was a good ending to what I feel like is a pretty good YouTube video. Instead, I find a mystery. I must have tracked it wrong. Well, I wrote it down wrong to do this video because I deleted all of them, and you can see I've got that clever little thing that's pulling up each name individually. So what did I do? All those other picks were on my team, so why not got it? Did I... James Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster. I traded the pick. Yeah, I traded down in order to try and grab value. That's why. Someone else took Dallas Goedert. Yeah, all right. Still the same mistake. That was not a good place to trade down. It was to try and find value. But like the best values to do that with were right there. And remember, I've traded that pick a little earlier on. I didn't do it on the clock. Actually, I did that on the clock because I was driving. I remember now, I was driving home while I was on the clock. I didn't really know how to pick because I'm in this quandary. And so I'm like, I'll trade it if anyone's got a trade offer. And so someone offered me basically an equal trade offer where I get 2 picks later on and they get 2 picks. We kind of corner the rounds. But this was a bad place to end up in that situation. And I can't blame it. I was driving home. I was busy, although that is a thing that happens in drafts. So you should be aware not to rush just to try and be convenient to your league mates, which I'm not going to say I made a mistake because I was just trying to be convenient. Like I could have done better here. I could have even made a better trade, but I was just, whatever. I didn't think hard enough. And it's the same problem. I didn't think hard enough because of some high upside, high risk elements I'd added to my draft earlier by taking Michael Thomas a little bit too early based on when DeAndre Hopkins went, and then drafting James Robinson not too early necessarily. I think that was fine. ADP says it's 10 spots earlier, but that means that when it came back to this was not the time to be like, I think I'll just make a trade and see what happens. That was not the time to do it, Pete. So same conclusion, it's just I now also don't have Dallas Goedert, which, again, is doubly the problem and why I shouldn't have traded there, because I don't even have Dallas Goedert to try and trade to get that value, because anyone I got for that pick is going to be drafted later, obviously. So, yeah, I have less value to work with to make up for that high-risk bet I've taken. So it's the same thing, I just forgot I'd actually traded that pick. Alright, let me know what you think of this. If you want to keep going, we can talk through some of the other rounds, or we can look at the rookie draft, or if you want me to go back over some of my other decisions here, because I wasn't clear enough, let me know. This is more than long enough for a YouTube video, I think, so, big screen. Don't clap into a microphone, never do that. I was just doing a demonstration of things that only terrible people who can't make videos would do. Let me know. Thanks for checking out. If you watched even 10 minutes of this, I don't know how you're just watching this part, but still, I really appreciate it because I know my videos tend to be longer and I babble and I look like this. So I get it. But I really appreciate it. And I keep getting these good suggestions. I have no ideas. I'm bereft of ideas. Quite obviously, the grind has gotten rid of all of my ideas. But that actually felt really fun. Not, look, this is how you draft, but this is the mistakes I made. Like, I didn't even plan that there was going to be a major mistake here. It's just when I looked back at the team, because I turned the camera on, I was like, oh, look, that seems to be a problem. And it's a good exercise to go through, to go back through your startup draft. I said that before, and this is the first startup I've done in a while, so I can't say I do it every time, but I would try to backfill how your draft went, to try and see where you've gone wrong, because that does help me at least see my team in a little bit clearer light. If I see how the draft unfold in hindsight, especially when you draft before the NFL draft, so things drastically change. Yeah, it's fun. And I appreciate the suggestion for the several of you that commented to say this would be a good idea. Joannis, I see you. Thank you very much. I do believe you're someone who's asked for it at least twice. So, yeah, let me know if I should do a rookie draft next or continue with this one or whatever. I do want to clear out this sheet for potential other drafts, but I'll hold it with just this draft in it for now. How's that? And the previous ADP, which I should really update. But I won't, just in case. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again next time I make a YouTube video, I guess, or on Twitter anytime at Pahowdy. Come tell me how terrible this draft was for me. It'd be great. Thanks.